Hey, Blitz here. So today I'm going to make a tutorial for this game, and normally I don't make tutorials for Battlefield because I feel like the proof is in the pudding, but I'm just going to crank up the range here so you can see me get a kill at almost every single increment on the scale practically from 300 all the way to 900 meters out. And you can just see that even if you have the 0 set to 500, you still have to use the notches in the scope. So the thing about I guess the training area or the target range, whatever you want to call it, it doesn't account for this situation where you actually have to deal with the weapon dispersion. And we'll come back to why having to deal with the weapon dispersion is important. Because I don't use aim assist at all. I don't. In fact, I had to aim at the sky because the ground is white, the numbers on the screen are white. To quickly reset the 0 to 500 to 100 meters, I basically had to look at the sky and set it to get that headshot on that pilot. Granted, I've been doing that for years. I currently have the world record 826 meter headshot in 2042. Okay, on a helicopter pilot. 800 meters downrange on a helicopter pilot. And yeah, it was incredibly hard to do. And I had to account for left and right movement, everything. Like the notches on the scope have value. Most people don't want to learn how to do it. I've been playing this franchise for over 15 years. Now, as a sad state of affairs, I have to talk about chronic liars on this platform. There are YouTubers that are bullshitting. Okay, so the importance of originality. This is something that is sort of not as common as it used to be. People are not as original as they should be anymore. So, case in point is Matimio. Like, dude has been making clips about him RPGing helicopters. I did that shit 12 years ago. And I hate to say this, he's not even that fucking good at doing that. So, you see how it took like a split second? See how the helicopter's making evasive maneuvers and he still got hit? Well, here's the funny thing. You look at this clip. Now there's a reason I paused here. The pilot is only 30 degrees off the center of his scope, the center line on a scope. So that means that the pilot is lining up the shot.
There ain't no.
The pilot lined up the shot for him. He didn't really aim. And his reaction time is so bad. Also, that pilot made no attempts to evade the shot. So his reaction time is 3 times slower. And I did this shit in iron sights. I didn't even have a scope with a small. Look at that. Like, how do you suck that fucking bad? But then copy somebody, right? So I left a comment, and the funny thing is he deleted this comment. He actually deleted my comment because, yeah, he is a copycat and he is a piece of shit. So in summary, just be fucking as original as you can be. Like when you watch this tutorial, trust me, you will learn things. You don't have to do exactly what I say. For example, you don't have to use a bipod. You could use a grip pod, for fuck's sake. They function the same way when you mount to cover. You don't have to use a bipod. If somebody tells you you have to use this attachment, you have to do this, you have to do that, it doesn't make any sense. Now granted, there are things like the red and violet laser sights, which only affect ADS accuracy. That's different because the game tells you that it only affects that, so you really should only use that for that. But I've seen people not do it, so it is what it is. You don't have to do it. You should, but you don't have to. And that's the key point I'm trying to get across. You should build the gun like this because it's been min-maxed for 100 meter engagements. But do people? No. In fact, the meta is way worse than this gun. You should min-max your gun for long-range 300 meter shots if you're playing defensively, because Battlefield is just a game of attack and defense. So this is the defensive version of this gun. Are people going to do that? No. So it would make no sense, for example, for me to put the 120 milliwatt blue on this weapon because of the simple fact that I gain nothing by moving around like an idiot. I don't gain benefits from the canted stubby with a 10x scope. I hate to say it, you only gain benefits from this if you're using iron sights. Because you're already going to be ADSing, you're already going to be looking down the scope, so it makes no sense. So there are certain things that don't make sense to do. However, if you have another attachment that lowers your accuracy, like the canted stubby, and then you put this on, then it would start to make sense because the two are sort of, the negatives are being removed and it's zeroing out to being just about nothing but a net positive. That would make sense from the gunsmithing point of view. But if somebody goes and tries to tell you that, you can't just do something off kilter, because if you look at all these guns, they're not meta. None of these guns are fucking meta, but they work. And they work really, really well. So that should tell you that the meta guns are just not that fucking good. They're average guns that people made because they cranked up their aim assist to compensate for the fact that they suck and they don't know how to read the fucking attachment descriptions, because the game tells you everything. It tells you everything. It tells you what the cryo barrel does. It tells you what the short barrel does. It tells you what the DMR barrel does. It tells you what the linear compensator does. In fact, if you look at that, that's a really tight grouping for me not ADSing. That's how min-max this gun is. If you looked at the crosshair there, that's how good this gun is min-maxed for close range. So keep in mind, this has been perfectly min-maxed. Even the dispersion is really low. If you look at the data on the bottom right, it's really low. Meaning this gun is really going to hit hard at 100 meters, which is why it works so well. You do not need a fancy optic. You just need iron sights. You really don't need a fancy optic. This gun is essentially min-maxed for 100 meters. Like, it doesn't matter how much I move, I'm still going to hit my target one way or the other. Like, it doesn't matter how much I move, whether I move left and right, whether I crouch, whether I do anything. This gun is min-maxed for close range. If you look at the meta version of this gun, it is nothing like this gun. And this is the defensive version, and all these attachments here work. I've used them all at least once. But look, double port brake, compensated brake, does it really matter? No, they're essentially the same. If you actually look at the stats, the compensated brake and the double port brake have the same stats. It's the same brake. It looks different. It's aesthetically different. And this is what I mean. There's no, like, should you probably use a double port brake because it affects one stat versus the other? I don't know. It depends upon your situation. So as you can see, there's no correct one way to use the muzzle brakes because they're all the same. All of the loud brakes are the same. The compensated brake, the double port brake, the single port brake, they're all the same. Now granted, the double port is slightly better than the single, but if you only have the single, you might as well use it. In fact, when we get to the handgun descriptions, the VZ61 has a single port brake. Again, the bipod is the best foregrip though because it has the highest stat range. But you can see right here in the stats, see the bottom right and the stat changes? The brakes deal with your recoil recovery per shot. The converter, the linear converter or compensator, linear compensator, it affects your first shot recoil only. Meaning your second shot is going to have a lot more recoil. Like, it's going to add a full degree. I hate to say it, your second shot's going to add a full degree with the linear comp. And it's going to look a little different when you fire with it. The cord, for example, is meant to be used in burst, and when we get into the chronic liars, which probably isn't going to happen until, like, at the end of the video, because they're, like I said, they are the worst at this game. They're complete shit at the game. I don't know why they fucking made tutorials. They don't even know what the fuck they're talking about. The cord and the M16 are meant to be used in burst fire. That's why they both have a burst fire mode. It says it in the description of the weapon in the gunsmithing section of the game. You can't deny this because everyone can read it. Okay? They're the only two that does this. Okay? So this one right here is incredibly accurate regardless of what foregrip, regardless of what attachment you put on it. Hell, most of the time I think sometimes I've been using it without it. Look at how accurate that is. Okay? And this was the Mark 17 in Battlefield 3. AKA the Scar HL or whatever the hell you want to call it. So it really doesn't matter. I just keep a suppressor on it because it keeps it quiet. But again, AK-4D, same concept. You can see I have two different ways I run it. I have an assault version, I have a defensive version. And the reason I have a defensive version and an assault version is because you need two different kinds. You always need at least two. You need a defensive variant and an offensive variant because sometimes you need to take an objective. Sometimes you need to defend an objective. That's why this game is attack versus defending, or attack versus defense, or what do you want to call it, right? And again, look at what I'm doing. It's the same concept, right? I'm using the laser sight to essentially get rid of the canted stubbies, recoil negation. And granted, this was recorded before the cryo barrel was introduced. I replaced the extended with the cryo. And of course they altered the AK-4Ds, aka the G3. It's really the G3. I'm just going to start calling it the G3 because that's what it is. It's the G3A3. So the G3A3 basically has, if you look at the 120 milliwatt blue, when you're moving, that's when it helps with your accuracy. So the candid stubby, when you're moving, your accuracy is decreased. You can either use the 6H or you can use the candid stubby. It doesn't matter which one. They're both basically the same. But look. Doesn't matter how much I move. I'm going to hit my target. So long as I aim correctly, I'm going to hit my target. Right? So, see the issue now? Like, you see the issue now? So, this is not even the meta version of the gun. So, is the meta superior? No, the meta is a fucking joke. The meta in Battlefield 6 is not even meta. The meta is not even meta. The meta here in this game has been convoluted by crap. Junk guns that don't do shit because people literally have their aim assist cranked to 100 and so they think it's good. My aim assist is set to 0. So that's why you're seeing the guns function like this. Because my aim assist is disabled. It's turned off. But you're seeing the actual guns, the way they are meant to be played, the way they are meant to be run. This is how they are meant to be used. Now, granted, when they introduced the M16, the M4 is literal shit. I would never use this gun anymore. There's no reason to use the M4 ever since the M16 was introduced. There's just no reason to use this gun. Unless you want a cheaper full auto version, that would be like the only way and only reason you'd want to use this. But again, there's a place for it. I just don't think it's as practical now as it used to be, especially with its accuracy being so bad because of being a short-barreled carbine. And that's kind of the problem with carbines right now, is that like the M417 and the SIG 553R is like basically the Commando. Those two are the only good guns for carbines, is the SIG 553R Commando and the M417, which I'm kind of laughing that they call it a carbine because the M417 is a DMR. It's a DMR. The German Bundeswehr used it as a sniper rifle. So the version that originally existed in Battlefield 3 was a semi-auto DMR. So I don't know why they made it a full auto carbine in this game. I don't get it, but that's what they did. But as you just read, the bipod is king. The bipod will always be king. The grip pods are kind of weird because they lose their accuracy bonus when you move, which defeats the purpose of having a recoil bonus. So again, if you ever see somebody throwing on attachments, where basically the attachments are all negatives, that makes no fucking sense. They have no recoil benefit whatsoever. And what happens when they do that is, yeah, it'll trip the aim assist, but the problem is that once they hit once there's an enemy past, I think it's like 150 meters, that's when the gun's dispersion starts to take effect. And when we get into the chapter when we talk about gun dispersion, because I have to show the mini map for people to see that, but basically gun dispersion, there's a cone that appears out from the player's cursor on the minimap. This cone is your weapon dispersion. So when you ADS, that's your weapon's dispersion in a flat line. So if you have a 10-degree dispersion, your cone is going to be very thin next to you, and then it's going to widen only at like 900 meters. And that's how the snipers work, because they got 5-degree, 10-degree dispersion, unless you're talking about the KTS, which is an LMG. The SMGs also have very low dispersion, but the problem is once you get to 100 meters, and you can see right there, that's like 30 meters, that's like 75. I had to dump all 30 rounds to kill that target. That is because the dispersion took over, and the accuracy is so bad. It is so bad. The people that say there's no, like, they just, like, always hit, they're full of shit. There's like one person I know has said this, that I know of for a fact in every video, and it's the COD lady or whatever. It's a German chick. Yeah, yeah, like a German chick. Get it? Yeah, I know. I'm ethnically German. I can speak German too. Ja, ich kann auch auf Deutsch sprechen. But why would I when I'm trying to make a tutorial for English speakers? So, like, and this is the problem. Like, people don't even know how to use the scopes. So this is how you do scopes. This image right here, scopes, right? This is how you read them. So on the left, the example is for leaning against cover. On the right is for dealing with bullet drop and enemy movement. So you would just mimic what's on the right on the left if they're moving to the right. If they're moving to the left, you do what is on the right side. You do what is on the left side of this image when you're leaning behind cover. And when we talk about leaning behind cover, we will talk about why these lines are important, because this 8x scope has like 5 different lines, but really you're only going to use the bottom 3. And that's because you can see right here that this line, the first line off the center line, is literally lining up a headshot there. So that's the one you're actually going to probably use the most. And like I said, when you lean, that's why those first 3 make sense, because of distance. So the further you are away from somebody, you have to line it up like this. It's a straight line from the center. The closer you are, you're just gonna line up the dot in the middle. Like at 100 meters, you don't even have to worry about the notches and lining up a line. It's literally you just aim the dot at the head and you fire, because it's 100 meters away. I mean, you're not going to fucking miss at 100 meters. You can't miss. Unless your 0 is set to 500, then you got to aim lower. That would be like the only time you would ever do that. And I think I only did that one time. With the scope. See right there, boom, done. Like, it's so easy, right? So the 8x scope is great for lining up shots. Look at that. You see that? Just line them up. So that's what the lines are for. Now, there's dots on that scope. I would say that this one is the worst, because you have no dots helping you line up shots when you're angling on walls. Because here's the thing, if you're prone and you aim to the left, your gun also has a higher angle than if you lean up against a wall. So there is a reason for these dots and shit. There's a reason for these dots. Okay, there is. That's why that first row of dots is wider than the second. It's because if you're prone and you're aiming to the left, your gun tilts into an extreme way. It helps you line up shots for quick target acquisition. That's what they're for. This ACOG doesn't have it. I would say that ACOG is one of the worst scopes in the game, because it doesn't have the sidebars like this one does. Like the 3.5 is better than the 4. I use the 3.5 more than I use the 4. I use the 5 more than I use the 4. Why is that? Because they have the notches which help you when you're leaning. Like, it makes no sense to use the 4. The 2.5 and the 4 are the worst two scopes in the game because they have no function. They just magnify. They're the worst two because they just magnify. That's all they do. They have no other function. Okay? The 2 is kind of weird. I don't like it, but people have used the 2. I don't like the 2 because the circle to me blocks your field of view, but it serves the same function as the 1.5 that I'll be showing later, which is the best 1.5 in the game. And this scope is this scope is the worst scope in the game. It's the worst game. There are plenty of scopes in the game. This one's the worst in the game because the notches on the right, bottom right of the scope, have no function because they're not mirrored on the left. So you can't even use them properly. This is what it's for. If they're moving really fast to the left and they're like 800 meters down the way, would be the only time you would ever use that bar. It is so useless, you're never going to use it because you can never see them that far away with this scope. That's why it's the worst scope in the game. It has no function. It just magnifies. That's it. If you're using it to magnify at close range, then I would get it. But if you're using it for the features, it makes about as much sense as using nothing. You might as well just use iron sights at that point because this shit ain't gonna help you at all. Because the iron sights, I hate to say, the iron sights in the game are good up to 300 meters. Yeah, you might as well just use this. If you're getting instead of the 2.5, you might as well just use that. Granted, like I said, the only value it has is magnification. That's it. That's it. Because it sure is only doing anything else. This is the best 1.5 in the game. This is the best 1.5 optic in the game. And the reasoning has to do with the 2 dots at the bottom and the flat bars. So if you look, I'm leaning left. So I'm using the flat bar on the left to put that directly at their feet. This is going to line up the center of the actual reticule on center mass. That's why this is the best in the game. And when I add the magnifier to it, it makes it a whole lot easier to see those 2 bars at the bottom so people can see what I mean by this. So when I go to lean, as you can see, that bar is at his feet, but the center of my scope is center mass. It's for quick target acquisition. That's what the bars are for quick target acquisition. So you have an easier time acquiring your targets and hitting them. You're just going to hit them both center mass. Doesn't matter if you do it the other side. You just use the right side notch instead of the left side notch. It's the best 1.5 in the game. You can't beat this optic. It's why I started throwing it on my G3 and I started wrecking people because I would just use the lean mechanic, and the only thing peeking out of cover was my head, a very small target, mind you. But because like I said, if you're centered up, like if you're not leaning at all, guess what? You can use those 2 bars. If you put their feet in between those 2 bars, you've now just successfully lined up center mass again. That's how good this 1.5 is with the magnifier. That's how good it is. So this is the best 1.5 in the game is this one right here. So what I'm about to discuss now is strategy. So there's only 2 strategies that I use all the time that I'm going to give away so people can understand how they function. The first one is Overwatch. So Overwatch is when you have like 1 or 2 people. Not everyone has to do this. The rest of the team should be at the front line. However, you always need somebody that is just behind the front, overlooking everybody, And that's what they call Overwatch. You can see right here, the line collapsed. I took over. I started mowing everybody down. And this is what Overwatch looks like. And as you can see, after I deleted those 5 people, there's only one enemy person left. And you can already see my friendly allies are moving in. In fact, they took the kill from me. They stole the kill. I didn't really care about it because at the end of the day, 23-0, 14 assists. Should I give a fuck? The answer is no. I did Overwatch to perfection. That's what that looks like. Now, this next strategy I'm going to talk about is what I call the funnel, where you just funnel people into it like an idiot. There's really no skill here. It's just a basic baseline strategy. You funnel them down a tunnel where all the lanes converge. The only thing you can do against it is to go around. I'm not going to show a video because it's so simple anybody can do it, to be honest. They're lying to people. They're telling people incorrect information. The misinformation and the lying is so bad. And many of them are so stupid, they have their aim assist cranked to 100.
Your spread when prone. So if you really want to minimize that spread in the given situation, make sure you're prone and not moving at all. Additionally, to ensure that your spread doesn't get out of control, this is where tap firing comes in, especially
Yeah, it's a made-up word. It's a made-up word. So if you're using a bipod and you're prone, your accuracy is going to be a lot higher. I've been doing that for a long time in both Battlefield 3, Battlefield 4, 2042, you name it, I've done it in every game. It functions the same way in every game. This is how you use the scopes. I'm just going to leave it up for a while so people can see how to use the scopes. I'm not going to touch vehicles because in Battlefield 6 there's only really 2 vehicles. It's the IFE and the tank. I'm being honest, and with aircraft it's the same way. And I've shown that the APDS and 125mm rocket on the IFE is the best way to run the IFE. I've proven it with a 46-0 KD. And all the other IFEs were running away from me. They were running away. So cranking up the aim assist to 100%, that does not accurately indicate recoil at all. You can act like it does.
And thought, I'm not even sure if this helps. You're not alone. So I tested every single muzzle in the game, side by side, under the same conditions, so you can actually see what each one does. By the end of this video, you'll know exactly which muzzle fits your build and
This is maxed. You can see right here his aim assist is maxed. If you slow his footage down, if you slow his actual footage down, he's aiming at the body, the torso, and it's magnetizing to the body. And you can see right here, again, it's magnetizing to the body. So his aim assist is triggering, and that's why his aim looks like that. He doesn't know how to play. He does not know how to play. This dumbass does not know how to play, but makes a fucking video tutorial about it. This is what happens when you don't have an aim assist. You notice I have the rangefinder, the 6x scope, because this build is meant for 500 meters. And again, headshot, 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 headshot. I don't have the aim assist trying to magnetize my aim to the fucking torso. So I can just freely aim to their face every fucking time and score the shot. And if you did not know, the back wall in the shooting range, it varies from 113 to 100 at the roof where the back wall, because the back wall is actually curved. So if you did not know, it's actually curved. So if you aim in the center and you use the rangefinder, it will 0 to 113. But this is why the cord is actually shit. On full auto, with no aim assist and no muzzle brake, this is how bad it is. I didn't even kill that person. I just mag dumped all 30 rounds and I fucking missed 60 plus shots. It's a stupid shit weapon. Even with steady aim, it sucks. And you just saw me miss all those shots, right? The way you run the cord is with burst fire, because it has a 2-shot burst. But here's the problem. Guns like the AK-40, you give it a bipod, you give it a double port brake, you give it a DMR barrel. I even sent this to this dude's channel, and I called him out for being a lying sack of shit. You know what he did? He deleted the comment because it was true. This is what it looks like with that light machine gun. You can mag dump all fucking day, but if you have to fire 30 rounds to do the same effect as this, 371 meters, then your gun is not made correctly. It's a junk weapon. It's garbage. It's shit. And you can do this with every fucking light machine gun. This is how the light machine guns are meant to be used. They're meant to be used as a long-range suppression weapon, where it suppresses an enemy squad so that your allies can move forward and they can either hit the sides or envelop them or surround them. Okay, it gives them time to close in because you're actively suppressing them. This is the role of the light machine gun. The role is Overwatch. You're overlooking your squad, your friendly units, you're protecting them, and you're nailing potentially enemies at a distance. You're not going to close the distance and get point blank range. You're not fucking John Rambo with the light machine gun. That's not how you play this game. And sadly, the assault rifles are just as good as some of the light machine guns in the game, if you build them correctly. And here's the thing, what if the shit gets thick, for example? What if the enemy does the same to you, and they close in on you? I intentionally joined a random fucking match in Season 2. This was in Season 2. It functions the same way in Season 3. It's why I haven't changed at all since Season 1, because it's the same thing. Okay, Season 1 through 3 has been exactly the same. Alright, so I got the AK-40 double port brake, I got the DMR barrel bipod, and the 5X prism scope with the 30 round magazine. I'm going to purposely join in on the IFE that's in the middle of everything, meaning I am completely surrounded by enemies on the left, the right, the front. It doesn't matter. They're everywhere, right? You see me instantly getting out of that area because that was a bad spot to be in, and you can see I put that cover up. I put this up to protect the IFE because it'll intercept RPGs. I dropped the ammo down because I felt like I was going to need it, because I was going to burn ammo real quick. And within the first, I think, 10 seconds, I've already expended probably 60 rounds. So yeah, I was going to need that ammo bad. Yeah, within the first 10 to 20 seconds, I've already expended 60 rounds. So, I mean, but I got 3 kills, right? They were point blank, and I still got them. Why is that? Because the double port brake drops the recoil deviation gain from like 0.7 to like 0.6. That's what it affects. The DMR barrel gives you accuracy bonuses, basically, as when you are firing with sustained fire, meaning if you're running full auto, it will keep the shots a little bit tighter, right? And this is what happens if they can shoot back. I hate to break it to you, unless they're aimbotting, you're gonna kill them anyways, because all your shots are gonna land on target and they're gonna miss a lot. Meaning, even though they're firing back at you, they are missing 60% of their shots. So you can call these junk guns god guns. They're shit. You can't turn shit into gold. You cannot turn shit into gold. This dude's a lying sack of shit. XclusiveAce is a lying sack of shit. They're basically lying sacks of shit. If they're telling you to use these guns in these specific ways, they're fucking pieces of shit.